People say an Omega Provocateur can topple whole packs with a single look, but the truth is I'm the one who falls apart. Every time I take another contract, the bar straddles the fracture line between two territories, like a bad decision that never quite got fixed. Neon drips in bruised colors across sheet metal and broken glass. Someone rigged a fan in the ceiling with copper wiring and a prayer. It screams in a rhythm that only barely counts as air. The smell is a cocktail of cheap synth alcohol, wet rust, and bodies that forgot what clean used to mean. Omegas are here, careful eyes, quick hands, voices pitched not to offend, and alphas too, carrying their dominance like a loaded gun. I keep my head down, but that's habit, not fear. My neck gives me away anyway. Skin puckered and pale where they burned out my pack's mark, a jagged halo of scar tissue that never forgives the weather and never lets me forget. Exiled is the polite word. The less polite version is that I was voted out and chased until my lungs bled. I didn't bow fast enough. I've never had a talent for bowing. The bartender slides me a glass of something that could strip paint. You look like you want to remember and forget at the same time, she says, voice smoked and dry. That implies I get to choose, I say, and the burn is a fist to the throat in the good way. The crowd moves like a tide when a trio of enforcers push through. They reek of expensive musk and second-hand power. They don't look at me. They look at people who can still be bent. It's fine. I'm not here to be bent. I'm here to meet a middleman who owes more debts than he's got teeth. He arrives late, which is how he stays alive. Grease in his hair, data lace along his jaw that glitch flickers when he smiles. Tobias, he sings, like we're friends. You look solvent. Temporarily, I say. What's the work? He slides a hollow across the counter. The neon bleeds through it, painting the file in poisonous pinks. A few lines of text, a symbol I recognize as a lesser pack's crest, a payout that makes my ribs expand. Enough to buy silence from the kind of people who sell noise. Enough to count. An Omega Provocateur, he says, savoring the term like it's a new brand of poison. The rumor says they get inside the heads of alphas, start fights that don't end, deals collapse, ways of life corrode. Rumors like poetry, I say, still need a name. He shrugs in the universal language of cowards, goes by a handful. Mostly he's smoke. We hear about him after he walks away. He taps the crest. Client claims your talents suit the job. You're good with ghosts. I'm good with targets, I say. This sounds like a problem with the source code of your city. Cities are problems with skin, he says. You in? Or are you going to keep drinking until your liver makes you a widow? I look around. Omegas laugh too carefully. Alphas argue with the casual malice of men who've never been alone. A drone limps across a cracked viewport like a scarab with its legs shot off. Outside, the steel corridors lead to towers held together with wire, faith, and people who learn to barter their fear. The world ended once. It keeps practicing. I'm in, I say, and the word tastes like old iron and new hunger. He exhales the way people do when they've convinced themselves this was the outcome all along. Your mark says meet at the bridge market in 48. He'll verify your face and your manners. Don't bring a pack. I don't own one, I say. And the middleman glances, finally, at my neck. He flinches like the scar might reach out and touch him. Right, he says. He tries to tip me a smirk and ends up tipping himself sideways. Pleasure's a currency. Spend it wherever you're going. He leaves. I finish the drink because I've always been proud, and that's always been dumb. The street outside is a throat of iron and trash. Towers climb like rusted ribs, and drones circle in lazy ellipses, red eyes making promises. The wind carries the memory of old smoke, and the present tense of rain. My boots crunch broken glass that has long ago lost the will to cut. There are markets here. Thin corridors of barter where meat sizzles beside black market tech, and vials of synthetic scents. There are altars too. Stacks of broken processor cores with candles stuck into them, wax making rivers down copper. People pray to whatever still listens. Sometimes it's the past. Sometimes it's the hard edge of tomorrow. My body remembers what the scar forgets. There's a creature under my skin. Call it wolf, call it heat, Call it the chemical lie of leadership that still lives in my blood. I've caged it so long that sometimes I forget the lock's shaped like my own teeth. Tonight it paces, interested. A contract is a leash I get to hold. That's the only kind I tolerate. I don't sleep much. When I do, it's in places that people call temporary with the same affection other people reserve for home. A cot under corrugated steel, a shower that coughs, a knife under the pillow, a second under the mattress, a third where I can reach it if my hands are tied. I'm good with targets because I am one. Dawn is a rumor that never quite reaches this part of the city, but the day moves anyway. I eat something with protein aspirations and take the paths that keep me invisible. The bridge market is where territory lines kiss and bite. It's a hanging maze of platforms welded over a collapsed highway, tents like scales, lights strung between pylons, vendors shouting like they're trying to banish the wind. He's waiting where every meet happens if the client thinks he's clever. A table, near the edge, nothing behind it but air and stories about people who fell. He's not the client, he's the client's proof that the client can reach me. A woman in armor that used to be a motorcycle jacket flanks him. A man in a suit that wishes it were better flanks her. They smell like nerves and money. You're taller than the rumor, the proof says. The rumor doesn't measure well, I say. He gestures to a stool that wobbles when I sit. The walkway rattles with the weight of a truck dragging its belly across the span. Below, the skeleton of the old city flashes in pools of water and metal. I don't look down. The scar on my neck tingles the way it does in crowds. The Provocateur, he says, performing the syllables. Do you know what that is? I know what the word Omega tends to do to alphas who have something to prove, I say. I know what the word Provocateur does to everyone else. I know you're paying me to find a myth with teeth. Not myth, he says. He slides a packet across the table. Paper. That's new. They want me to feel things. 5 failed negotiations, he says. 3 between packs, 2 with civ councils. Every time, an Omega shows up. Says words like they're woven wire. Alphas go quiet, then they go loud. Deals die. Bodies follow. So you want me to fetch your scapegoat. My voice is flat. It used to be knives. I ground it down to stone to save the edge. He doesn't rise to the bait. Smart. We want stability, he says. We want trade routes that don't bleed. You want your kind at the top of the food chain without indigestion, I say. The woman in the X-jacket smiles like she's seen a fight she wants to remember. Bring him in, he says. Alive. He's useful. The way he says useful is the way people say fragile when what they mean is breakable. Any names? I ask. The proof glances at his hollow sleeve, and the light paints anxious colors along his throat. He uses different call signs. Mostly, he takes the room. People forget to ask his name when he looks at them. That true? I ask the woman. She's watching the crowd like the crowd owes her money. True enough, she says, and her voice could clean a wound. Men stop pretending to be gods when he talks. Then they start pretending to be boys. And who hired me? I say, even though I can taste the lie in the air already. Friends of order, he says, too quickly. Enemies of surprise, I say, and take the packet. Fine. When I find him, you'll get a ping. If you try to track me first, you'll get a knife. We wouldn't dream, he says, and dreams trail like exhaust in his wake as I leave. Contracts don't wait, but hunger does, so I get a bowl of something that swears it used to be animal. The vendor throws in a piece of flatbread because I look like I could eat the table. The market breathes around me, metal laughter, the constant clatter of repairs, a violin grown out of a speaker. Far above, a drone falters and catches itself like a drunk, trying to remember his manners. The packet gives me breadcrumbs, times, places, silhouettes. The Omega is always almost in focus, like the camera keeps blinking. He moves through rooms like a choice everyone's already made. He stands too straight for someone who needs permission. He leaves no one satisfied and no one sure. By mid-afternoon, the market sways in a wind that tastes like rain and static. I follow the breadcrumbs into the evening, and the evening opens its jaws. Bars wake. Music starts to insist. Neon rises like poisonous flowers. The crowd shifts, predators slipping into better skins. I go back to the border bar because rumors breed where light looks like sin. The same fan screams. The same waitress takes pity on me by ignoring me. The same enforcers try to own the floor with their feet. The wall hollows are playing last season's victory fights. The pixels tired of blood. I find a place that keeps my back to steel and my front free. That's when I see him. Not because anyone points, not because the room hushes or roars. Because something in me that is old and stubborn lifts its head and looks. He's at a table too close to the ledge, exactly where a smart man wouldn't sit. He's in a jacket that used to be formal before it met the rain, sleeves, pushed to the elbow like he's about to either work or fight. He sits like a question mark learning to be an exclamation point. His hair is the kind of dark that keeps secrets, cut in a way that says he did it himself and made it look intentional. His mouth has two settings, amused and cruel. Right now it's the kind of amused that makes people confess. Omega, says the rumor that got me paid, and my eyes say, maybe. The posture isn't shy. The gaze isn't soft. He watches the room the way a thief watches a crowd. That is like a man who already owns it and is curious what it will cost to keep. He laughs at something a vendor says. Quick, low, private. And every alpha near him swears they didn't flinch. The man sitting opposite him leans forward, shoulders rounding, scent souring with the sweetness of surrender. The Omega doesn't lean back. He doesn't have to. He's gravity wearing a face. My creature presses its paws against my ribs, interested. It doesn't surge like it does with the fragile ones, the ones I avoid because what I break, I try to fix and I can't fix much. No. This is focus, recognition, a challenge you want not because you should win, but because you want to see if you can. He turns, like someone whispered my name into his ear. His eyes find me. They are late sky blue with storms scrawled in the margins. Lazy derision sits there, the playful sort that learned to taste like threat. The corner of his mouth says he knows what I'm paid to do and finds it adorable. My scar itches under his attention, and the fan above us forgets to spin for a beat. He doesn't look away. He toasts me with a glass of something colorless and mean. Then, like he's doing me a favor, he lowers his gaze to my throat, to the absence that pretends it's not a crown, and up again to my eyes, where I keep the knives. Predators, no predators. Prey learns our faces and tries not to say the words. He looks at me like he's read the whole book and is deciding whether to write in the margins. I expect my beast to snarl. It paces instead, tail high, the way it does when it finds a scent that means home or war. Maybe both. The man with him speaks and he tips his head, listening. He replies without breaking eye contact with me, a soft-lipped answer. That makes the other man nod as if he came up with it himself. Then my Omega Provocateur gives me the smallest smile I've ever seen. It's enough. It says, "Come try." The rumor spits his call signs into my head. None of them matter. I know what he is. I don't know who. I lift my glass. He lifts his. The bar keeps breathing. The world keeps ending. And I understand, suddenly and entirely, why deals die around him. Because for a moment, when he looks at you like that, you remember what you want more than what you promised. I set my glass down and stand. He watches the whole way. When I take a step toward his table, he shifts. Nothing dramatic, just a consideration, rearranged, and the exit out of the bar is in my peripheral like a dare. He can leave. He can vanish. I can chase. I don't rush. I'm an exile, not a fool. But when the music stutters and the door sighs and the night pours in, he is already moving, already laughter and shadow and long lines of limbs. He doesn't look back. Not prey, my creature says, delighted. A hunter who invites the hunt. I follow, into the corridor of iron and trash and rain that still remembers fire. The drones whine above, the towers lean close to hear. Somewhere below, water moves through arteries the city forgot. My boots find the rhythm of the chase I haven't yet allowed. His silhouette blinks in and out between neon bruises and market tents. For a heartbeat he stops under a flickering sign that reads, "Gods," then no, then go. He looks over his shoulder, and the lazy derision is back, sweeter now, like an apology he'll never give. Try. His mouth shapes, though the music from the bar swallows any sound. I do what I always do when the world tells me to heal. I grin like a man who remembers his teeth. And I run. The club is the kind of place that pretends to be secret, but sells tickets to its own funeral. A cavern carved into the bones of the city, dressed in leaking neon and synth bass, that thumps like a tired heart. The air is thick with ozone, pheromones, and the sharp aftertaste of chemicals that promise ecstasy and deliver only memory loss. I should have turned back after the bar, after the way he looked at me like I was a note he meant to play later. Instead, I follow the rumor deeper, because I've never been good at ignoring the things that make my beast lift its head. He finds me before I find him. One moment I'm watching the dancers grind under violet strobe, trying to separate alpha from omega by scent and stance. The next, a hand ghosts over my shoulder like it's testing my balance. I turn, already ready to break fingers, but he's leaning against the bar like he's been there all along. Up close, the details sharpen, the half-wild hair damp with heat, the jacket still pushed up to his elbows. The smile that knows it can cut deeper than a blade. Buy me a drink? He asks. And it's not a question. You don't look thirsty. He shrugs, the line of his throat gleaming under the fractured light. Not for the drink. My scar itches, like it knows what game we're playing. You always proposition the men sent to put a leash on you? His smile tilts. Only the interesting ones. The rest I let choke on their own intentions. I should walk away. File him under contract, not conversation. But he's standing too close, and the baseline threads between us, syncing with the pulse I pretend doesn't speed up. Tell me something, he says, leaning in until his voice is a hum against my ear. Do you actually believe the story? That I'm some omega who whispers and makes alphas tear out their own throats? I look at him. Really look. He's radiance wrapped in shadows, too calm for prey, too amused for a liar. Doesn't matter what I believe. It matters what they pay me to do. And what do you want? His eyes flash, catching the violet light, daring me to say it. My beast answers before I do, pressing hard against my ribs, tail lashing. Hungry. I lock it down with a breath sharp enough to cut. What I want, I say, is distance. He laughs, low and intimate, like I've just told him a joke he's already planning to retell. Distance? Then why are you here instead of anywhere else? The crowd shifts, swallowing the space between us. He uses it like a magician, slipping sideways, brushing my arm on the way past. I turn too fast, but he's already threading through the dancers, a phantom in neon. Damn him. I push through the crowd, the air splitting with bodies and music. Every flash of light catches him a step ahead, then gone. He doesn't run. He drifts, like he knows exactly how fast to move to keep me chasing. We spill into the corridors outside the club. Narrow veins of rusted metal and tarp-covered stalls. Vendors shout, hawking skewers of meat that may never have seen an animal. Circuit boards fried with oil. Vials of perfume labeled with lies. The smell is a bruise, smoke, sweat, electricity. I catch a glimpse of him under a hanging banner. Then he's gone again. The beast in me wants to sprint, to close the distance and pin him. My human half reminds me, I don't know what happens if I succeed. Careful, I mutter to myself. He's not prey. A laugh echoes down the tunnel, too soft to be coincidence. I turn the corner. Nothing but shadows and the hiss of a generator spitting sparks. My pulse is too loud, my mouth dry with a taste I refuse to name. He's ahead of me, I know it. Watching, deciding. I walk slower. If he wants me frantic, he'll be disappointed. I've been prey before. I know how to bleed with dignity. A flash, movement near a stack of crates. I close the gap fast, knife already in my palm. Empty. Only air that smells faintly of him, clean and sharp with an undertone that twists my gut. The crowd behind me thickens, voices overlapping like static. He's gone. No sound of steps. No scent trail I can trust. Like he folded himself out of the scene. My comm link buzzes. A message, private channel, unknown sender. I thumb it open. The words glow against the cracked screen. Want to catch me? Then, try. My lips pull back over teeth, half snarl, half grin. The market noise surges. A child runs past with a hacked drone on a string. An old man curses at the rain dripping through a tarp. Life continues, oblivious, and I stand in the middle of it, realizing something I don't want to. The contract said, Provocateur. The rumor said dangerous prey. But as I read the words again, as the beast inside me growls not in hunger but in anticipation, I know the truth crawling down my spine. I'm not the hunter here. I'm the one being hunted. The abandoned power station is a cathedral built for a god of current and noise. Steel ribs arch over a floor of grates and shadow. Catwalks stitch the air into a web. Ozone lives here even without power. An afterimage on the tongue. Oil has seeped into the bones of the place and refuses to leave. Every step echoes. Every echo sounds like someone following. I don't get invited in. I follow the rumor of his message across the bridge market, into a drainage tunnel, up, a service ladder that sways with my weight, and through a panel that used to be a door. Someone has welded a sigil on the inside, 2 intersecting arrows. Not pack, not civic, something else, a choice pointing at itself. They see me before I see them. A light spears my face, white, clinical, unkind. Hands, a voice says, female, bored. Where I can shoot them, I raise them. I've got 2. You want a 3rd, you'll have to provide it. Bootsteps on mesh. A shadow separates from the shadows. The woman is lean. Her hair buzzed to the skin on one side and braided on the other. She wears a harness stitched with tools and knives. Her scent is mint cut with steel. Alpha, or a beta who learned to bite back harder. Name, she says. Tobias. She tilts her head, taking in the scar on my neck. Exile, she decides, as if that's a species. You're late. For what? I ask. Not dying, she says, and lowers the light. Come on, contract. He's waiting. Contract. It shouldn't rankle. It does. We cross a market of machines. Turbines half disassembled. Coils of copper. Like sleeping snakes. Crates stamped with brands that used to mean warranty. People look up as we pass. Kids in grease-streaked clothes. Teenagers soldering boards with tongues stuck out in concentration. A man with his arm in a sling arguing with a woman about ration calculations. They don't smell like prey. They smell like friction and intent. The main control room has been reborn as a war heart. Banks of dead monitors now hold projectors. Maps float in blue and green relief. Cities rendered as wounds and veins. Threads of light connect nodes like a nervous system. Notes are scrawled across the glass of every window. Times, routes, names that might be call signs or wishes. A generator coughs in the corner and finds its breath. The air hums. He's there. Of course, not at the center, off to the side, as if the center is wherever he stands. He's shed the club's jacket for something darker, cleaner, sleeves. Still shoved up to show competent forearms nicked with old scars. His hair is damp again. Or maybe it never dried. He's listening to 3 people at once, and all 3 think they have his attention. He looks up as we enter, like gravity has a voice. Contract, the woman announces. He glances at her. Nix, if you keep calling him that, he'll think we'll pay him on time. Lies keep the world spinning, she says, and slaps my chest lightly as she peels away. Try not to embarrass me. It's getting harder, I say to her back. You make it easy, she tosses, not looking. He's smiling when I face him, which I don't appreciate. You ran well, he says. Like we're discussing a hobby. You hid well, I say. You always flirt by making people chase you? His smile sharpens. Only the interesting ones. You stayed on your feet. That's more than I can say for most of the city's alphas. There are ears here. There are eyes. Humiliation is a small, specific heat behind my ribs. You invite me in to insult me in front of your interns? Volunteers, says a boy at the closest console without looking up. And I'm 19, old enough to correct strangers, not old enough to duck, I advise. He ducks. Good instincts. Ryan, because it has to be his name eventually, though he hasn't given it yet, gestures me closer. The map nearest us shows this district, The station, the bridge market, the fracture lines where packs have cut the city into biteable pieces. Here's your riddle, he says. He flicks his fingers and a route lights up from a depot near the river to a tower with mirrored skin. Ground-level convoy every third night at 0200. 6 vehicles, 2 drones overhead, 1 lagging, 1 ahead. Cargo, medical-grade suppressants. The kind that stops Omegas from breaking and Alphas from breaking others. Charity run? I ask. Pack-controlled clinic, he says. Their charity buys loyalty. Our charity buys time. The woman, Nyx, leans on a console, watching me through lashes that should be illegal. And the riddle is whether you're here to help us reroute their kindness or report us for trying. Ryan's mouth quirks. You see why I keep her. Sharp objects are useful until they slip, I say. Then you learn where to hold them, he says, and it lands too close to the scar at my throat. The plan is simple enough that it has to be a trap. I say it out loud, because I have learned to step on my own mine before it runs. You want me to take the rear vehicle. Not destroy it, not flee with it. Detach, decoy, return the rest on time. You want me to prove I can steal 1 breath from a giant without making him notice he's suffocating. A kid at the back, freckles, a smile too fast, whispers, poetry. And someone hisses him quiet. Ryan nods. He's close now, reading the story in my pupils and pulse. I want to see if you can take a thing without owning it, he says, voice low. If you can move between teeth, and if I can't? Nyx answers with a grin. Then we tell the convoy an ambitious alpha tried to hijack their charity and failed. Packs love a scapegoat with a hole in him. Do you always keep your knives this visible? I ask. Only when I like the person I'm cutting, she says. A man with grease under his nails clears his throat. Not to be the one to beg for specifics, but if we're not destroying, we still need a place to hide a truck for 4 hours. Storm basin under the east span? Flooded, someone else says. Not at 0200, Ryan murmurs. Already 3 moves ahead, eyes. On the map, finger drawing circles where the city dips and holds. And he won't be alone. He turns to me. You'll take Cam. She drives like she's trying to convince the road to love her and shoots like she knows it never will. I prefer solo, I say. I prefer results, he says, not missing a beat. We hold that for a breath. He doesn't blink, neither do I. My beast stretches, interested in this tug of war, in the clean line of his will neither looming nor yielding. Respect is a flavor I remember. It tastes like steel warmed by sun. Fine, I say. But if this is a loyalty test, say so. Everything is, Nyx says. Cheerful doom. Ryan's smile goes tired around the edges for a second, the way a man smiles at a weight no one else volunteered to carry. You want it in writing? He asks. If you betray us, you don't leave. If you don't betray us, you still might not leave. The city eats everyone. I'm just trying to teach it some table manners. Charming, I say. You always seduce people with metaphors about being devoured. He leans in, close enough that I could count the flecks in his irises if I were the counting type. Only the interesting ones, he repeats, softer. Then louder to the room, briefing in 10. Cam, get the keys. Nyx, check the basin's drain gates. If they're welded shut again, I want them open without announcing it to the river. People scatter with purpose. It should make him look smaller when he's not orbited. It doesn't. He watches them go like a man cataloging the things he loves and can't keep safe. Why me? I ask. Because the question has been pawing at the door of my mouth since the club. You don't know if I'll sell you to the highest bidder. I do, he says. And it's infuriating how sure he is. You'll sell me to the right bidder. There's a difference. And who's that? The person who makes your scar mean something other than exile, he says. If that's not me, I want to meet them. Humiliation again, but now it has company. Curiosity. I hate both in equal measure. They make me reckless. You misread me. I doubt it, he says. He reaches past me to toggle a projector, close enough for the heat of him to brush my chest, careful enough not to touch. But I'll allow for revisions. Cam arrives. A compact woman with a buzz cut and a coil of wire around her wrist like jewelry. She gives me a long, unimpressed look. You the leash? She asks. The knife, I say. Sharp or decorative? Depends on who's holding me. I nod at Ryan. He prefers not to cut his own fingers. Good, she says. I hate cleaning blood out of upholstery. We move toward the exit, but Ryan's voice catches me like a hook. Tobias. I look back. He's framed in map light, hands in his pockets as if pockets could hold him. You'll be tempted to escalate, he says. To make it a victory you can smell. Don't. We need quiet wins. You think I don't know how to be quiet? I ask. I think you forgot, he says. The derision is lazy again, sweet with threat. Prove me wrong. Is this where you wish me luck? He smiles. I don't believe in luck. A beat. I believe in choices. Outside, the catwalks ring with other people's footsteps and mine. Calm walks like the ground owes her something. The night presses close, listening. My beast paces, caught between the insult and the invitation, between the memory of being pack and the reality of being alone. He plays close, I think, vision catching on the way he leaned without leaning. Close enough to warm my skin, far enough not to touch. Contract, Cam says, breaking my thoughts. You gonna be a problem? Always, I say. Good. She tosses me a set of keys that have seen wars. I get bored easily. As we descend into the station's throat, the generator's hum fades to the cities. The air smells like rain and trouble. The assignment could be a trap. The man could be a myth wearing skin. The map in my head redraws itself around both. I should resent the test. Instead, for the first time in years, I want to pass one. The armory squats at the edge of the northern district like a bad memory, steel skin, pitted by old fires, roof bristling with antennae and the red eyes of drones. A fence of razor wire hums with borrowed voltage. Beyond it, the city breathes smoke. Somewhere to the west, a warehouse burns, slow and stubborn, painting the clouds the color of cauterized wounds. I passed the convoy test, Cam laughing like a siren as we slid a truck into the storm basin Ryan's. Quiet winds ringing in my ear like a dare. And now I'm here with the man who doesn't believe in luck. We're on a catwalk that used to feed workers to a loading bay. Below, crates stamped with the sigils of 3 packs who forgot how to share, pallets of suppressants, and enough rifles to make a god flinch. 2 drones on a figure 8, Ryan murmurs beside me, watching their paths. Through reflected light on a shard of polished metal, he's palming as a mirror. Lag in the turn after the second pylon. Blind spot is 3 seconds if their firmware is the sloppy version. 5. If it's the very sloppy version, you sound hopeful, I say. I sound prepared. He taps the comm in his ear. Nix. On my mark. Cam. Engine's dead. Safety's off. Nix's voice is a grin with teeth. Tell me something I don't know. Cam's as dry as wire. I hate cleaning blood out of upholstery. Then don't miss, Ryan says, and glances at me. You take the left pylon. I'll take the right. We go on 3. On whose 3? I ask. Mine, he says, as if that was the only possible answer. The drones swing through their lazy arcs, proud of a pattern only they believe in. Ryan breathes, counting without counting, and then 3. We move. I drop from catwalk to support beam, fingers catching rust, feet silent on lattice. The drone above me hums by, blind to everything but the lie of its route. I slip under its gaze and reach the pylon's maintenance hatch. 2 screws, 1 hinge. The panel whispers free. A splice, a spark, and the hum in the wire stutters into stillness. Across the way, Ryan is a shadow kneeling in shadow, hands quick and precise, the scent of him sharp with focus. His drone coughs, drifts, and parks itself like a dog told to stay. I meet his eyes across the gulf and don't need words. We were a pair before we agreed to be. Gate, he says. Barely sound. I swing down to the manual crank, shoulders remembering 1,000 doors that didn't want to open. The lock resists, then yields with a metallic sigh. Nix and 2 volunteers slip through the gap and take the loading bay with. The efficiency of people who expect to be interrupted and resent it. Cam ghosts a van into the shadow of the wall and kills the lights. This is the part of the story where something goes wrong. It's how stories work. The wrongness arrives right on schedule. A patrol at the far corner, 6 boots, 1 officer with a scent like narcissism. They round into view, and the nearest volunteer freezes. Down, I hiss, but it's too late. The officer's hand lifts, the signal for alarm. Ryan lands behind him like a choice. A hand over the mouth, a twist that is more lesson than cruelty, and the officer folds to steal. The other guards hesitate just long enough for the math to change. I'm already moving, low and fast, knife a whisper, heel to solar plexus, elbow to jaw. Cam's rifle coughs twice, clean and quiet, and 2 men forget why they were standing. Neutral, Nix reports. No loud toys. Good, Ryan says, and his hand flicks in a pattern I'm learning means follow. I do, because he's already seen the next 2 rooms and I like living. We flow through the aisles between crates. Labels flash by. Calibers, quantities, chemistries. The air smells like oil and caution. Ryan stops at a crate stenciled with a pack crest I recognize for its fondness for public punishments. He pries it open with a tool that lives in his sleeve like a secret. Inside, rifle components in foam cutouts, each part etched with a serial number testifying to bureaucracy's arrogance. Take the bolts, he says to Nix. Leave the bodies. It's like stealing a tongue. Poetry, she says, and pockets a fistful. Cam, he continues, paint the drone's flight logs. We want them to think they saw what they were supposed to see. You think they read, Cam mutters. I think they nap. But she's already at the terminal nicked into the wall, cooing quietly at its old brain until it tells her its lies. Footsteps echo from the southern corridor. Too many, too quick. Company, I say. Time to disappoint, Ryan answers. Positions? We take the columns like dancers who don't trust the music. The patrol comes in loud and eager, shooting first because the world rarely punished them for it. Sparks jump from metal skin. I roll to the next crate, pop up, and put 2 men down with shots I don't have to think about. Nix vaults onto a forklift, uses it as moving cover and makes a security. Light regret its career, dropping the room into a friendlier dusk. Cam's rifle sings the steady, unromantic song of competence. Ryan moves like a plan. Never where they want him, always where we need him. He spins into my cover, breath hot against my cheek for a second. 3 more, he says. Left flank taking the long way. You quick? Always, I say. Prove it. He feints right, draws fire, and I slip left, low, knife out. A flick against a hamstring and a whisper across a throat. The last man sees me and tries to remember how to be brave. I save him the trouble by knocking him into a stack of crates until he chooses unconsciousness. Clear, Cam announces. Clear-ish, Nix amends, staring at a panel that's begun to blink on the far wall. Ryan follows her gaze and swears without words. Silent alarms, he says. They've told the building we're not friends. How long? I ask. Enough for me to say this calmly, he says. Nix, you and Rask with the bolts to van 1. Cam, copy the drone logs and then wipe your prints. Tobias. Knife or leash? I ask, because teasing is cheaper than fear. Shield, he says, and the word hits a part of me I forgot I had. You're with me. We run. The building wakes around us, doors locking, vents shifting their breath, cameras opening like eyes. The night outside answers with sirens from another district. Not ours yet, but interested. The city loves a crowd. We reach the inner office, where bad men kept good chairs. Papers everywhere, maps with routes circled in expensive ink. Ryan beelines for a safe behind a screen, playing footage of a pack alpha, cutting a ribbon with a ceremonial blade. He snorts and fishes in his pocket, produces a pair of picks a thief would respect. You pick locks, I say, covering the door. I pick habits, he says, and the safe gives up, insulted. Inside, discs, cash, a ledger printed on real paper because some sins prefer to be tangible. He tucks the ledger into his jacket and hands me a drive. Insurance, he he says. If I get dramatic, you run this to Nyx. You don't get dramatic, I say. Everyone gets to once. He looks up, and for a heartbeat, the storm in his eyes cracks open to show sky. Don't die for me. That was never the plan, I say, and believe it so hard it scares me. We cut back toward the loading bay as the building tries to hem us in. Grates drop. I slide under one and catch it, muscles shaking, while Ryan rolls through with casual grace and shoulder checks the manual override. He grins at me. I glare at him. Neither of us says what that looked like. At the bay, Nyx is shoving the last crate of bolts into the van. Kisses later, she says. Sirens now. Go, Ryan orders. Rendezvous Delta. What about, Cam starts. Will be the ghost story, he says, and she stops arguing because she's smart, and because she trusts him more than she fears for him. The van slides into the night like a promise. Ryan and I cut through the side exit, into streets painted with smoke and stuttered orange. The air tastes like pennies. Somewhere a tower coughs flame, embers drift like feral fireflies. We move in the lee of walls, matching our shadows to others. A drone tips its red eye down. Ryan tucks us under the collapsed spine of a billboard advertising a future that never arrived. Breathe, he whispers, close enough to fog the shell of my ear. I am, I whisper back. Not because I need to, but because the sound of my voice steadies a part of me that has been teetering since the club. Boots pound past. Voices argue about jurisdictions like the city cares. The drone decides we're trash and lifts. Bored. We wait, counting the distance between heartbeats. When the noise thins, we slip out and take an alley that smells like old rain and new sparks. A cat glares at us like we owe it rent. Somewhere behind, a siren hits the note that means someone else's life just got complicated. We stop beneath the ragged awning of a shuttered stall. For the first time in hours, no one is aiming at us. The night breathes. So do we. He turns to me, and the space between us is the size of a lie. My back finds the wall because it wants something solid to argue with. He steps closer, not quite touching, heat skimming my ribs like the suggestion of a hand. His breath is warm with adrenaline and mint. The city smoke has found his hair. Quiet win, he says, voice low. Didn't feel quiet, I answer. It will tomorrow, he says. That's what quiet means. It keeps working when you're not looking. I should say something clever. I should make a joke about poetry. Instead, I focus on the pulse in his throat. It beats fast but steady, not fear, momentum. Why me? I ask again, aware that I'm repeating myself like a man who wants a different answer. Because you don't take what you can't live with, he says. Because you don't run toward noise just to hear yourself in it. A beat. Because when I said shield, you didn't flinch. I don't like being named, I say. I'm not naming you, he says, and now he does lean in, the barest brush of his shoulder against my chest, a point of heat that could burn if it wanted. I'm recognizing you. My beast lifts its head, then lies down, an old animal deciding not to bare its teeth. It should want to claim, to press, to mark. That's what exile taught me to fear, the part of me that mistakes ownership for safety. But standing here with him, smoke licking the edges of our little pocket, of air, I feel something the beast hasn't felt in a long time. It doesn't want to mark. It wants to choose. The realization is a blade in a sheath I didn't know I wore, dangerous and comforting in the same breath. It makes my hands itch with something other than violence. It makes my throat feel like it could speak a promise without choking on it. Don't look at me like that, he says, trying for lazy derision and missing by a centimeter. We have 3 more warehouses to disappoint before dawn. Lead, I say, pushing off the wall before I make a mistake I'll have to honor. He steps back, and the night moves with him. We slip into it like we belong. 2 silhouettes where there used to be 1 hunter and 1 myth. The city hums around us, still hungry, still cruel, and for the first time since they burned the mark off my neck, I am not running from a leash. I'm running toward a choice. The roof of the half-dead skyscraper groans under its own weight. Wind whistles through the broken teeth of windows and flaps a dozen tarps someone lashed down years ago and forgot about. From up here, the city looks like a graveyard with neon headstones, towers leaning into, smoke, streets choked with firelight and shadow, drones drifting lazy as vultures. Ryan stands at the edge like he's auditioning for gravity. His silhouette cuts sharp against the bruised sky, arms folded, head tilted toward the horizon, where another pack burns another district to remind everyone who still owns what. You're staring, he says without turning. Making sure you don't decide to jump, I answer. He huffs a laugh. You'd like that, wouldn't you? Save you the trouble of deciding where your loyalty actually lies. I step closer, boots scraping gravel. My loyalty isn't your concern. That's the problem. He turns now, eyes pale fire in the half-dark. You keep acting like exile erased your chains, but every time you take a contract from the packs, every time you bend your neck just to keep breathing. His gaze flicks to the scar at my throat, lingering like a hand pressed too long. You're still leashed, alpha without a pack, still begging for permission. The words hit harder than they should. My beast snarls, offended, but not at him. At the truth I refuse to name. Careful, I growl. You're mistaking survival for obedience. Am I? His voice sharpens. You follow orders because it's easier than admitting you could choose. You're chained, Tobias. Even without a collar, anger spikes. I close the distance in 2 strides. You think you know me? My hand finds his jacket, bunches the fabric, shoves him back. His shoulders slam against the concrete wall around the roof. You've known me 5 minutes and you think you've mapped out my scars? His smile is infuriatingly calm, even with my fist clutching his clothes. Mapped? No. But I can read a man when he's desperate not to be read. Heat coils under my skin. Not just fury. Too close, too charged. His breath hits my cheek, warm with adrenaline and mint. My body remembers fights that turned into other things, worse things, better things, and it trembles between both. You're playing a dangerous game, I say, though my grip hasn't loosened. And you're losing it, he whispers. I shove him harder, but the motion pulls us closer. His chest brushes mine, a fleeting spark of contact that sets my beast pacing. His hands rise, not to fight, not to surrender, but to press against. My ribs just enough to remind me he could push back if he wanted. He doesn't. He waits. The wind moans through shattered windows. Somewhere below, a gunshot echoes, then silence. Up here, the world is just us, teeth bared and almost touching. Why do you keep needling me? I demand, voice rough. Because you react. His eyes narrow, pupils blown wide in the dim light. And because I need to know if the wolf you keep chained is worth unleashing, or if he'll just bite whoever's holding the key. My pulse hammers. Every instinct screams to claim, to press, to prove. That's what alphas do. Dominate or be dominated. But something is wrong, something doesn't fit. His scent, it hits me in the next breath. Not Omega, not the sweet sour undercurrent that makes beasts salivate. No, this is sharper, heavier, buried under layers of suppressant but bleeding through in threads. The unmistakable edge of alpha. My fingers loosen in shock. His expression flickers, surprise, then steel. He knows what I've caught. He knows he slipped. Get off me, he says, too smooth. Like control is something you can fake with tone. For once, I obey. I step back, hands falling, throat tight. The air between us crackles. My beast is confused, hackles half raised, half bowed, because the man it thought was prey smells like a rival. Or something worse. Ryan straightens his jacket, smoothing where my grip wrinkled the fabric. You're quick to anger, he says, forcing casual. Though I see the tightness in his jaw. That's a liability. And you're quick to hide, I shoot back, covering my own unease. That's cowardice. His mouth curves, not into a smile, but into something more dangerous. Or strategy. We don't move for a long time, just stand in the ruined wind, 2 predators measuring the inches between them like territory. My chest still aches with the echo of his nearness. My throat still hums with the almost touch. Finally, he turns away, shoulders taut. Get some rest. Tomorrow we decide whether you're truly with us, or still dreaming of the packs who burned you. Inside, the resistance room waits, maps layered on walls, weapons stacked. In careless rows, the smell of oil and ink thick in the stale air. People move around us, oblivious to the storm that nearly broke on the roof. I keep my face blank, but my mind is a riot. I should be angry. I should demand answers. But instead, a thought keeps gnawing at me, unwanted and undeniable. He isn't what they said. He isn't what he pretends. And I don't know if that makes him more dangerous, or the only honest thing left in this city. The tunnel breathes like a sleeping animal, warm in the wrong places, damp everywhere else. Condensation threads the ceiling and drops in a rhythm that turns seconds into teeth. The walls are old concrete tattooed with maps only the desperate can read. Chalk, arrows, coded sigils, dates crossed out and replaced like prayers revised. Our boots scrape silt and rust. Ahead, a generator coughs and catches, painting the dark with a heartbeat of pale light. Ryan walks a half step in front of me, hands bare, sleeves shoved to the elbow. He's quiet in the way of men thinking faster than they can talk. The others, Nix, Cam, two runners with more nerve than years, fan behind us, all edge and economy. The air smells like oil and metal and him. That last one has been different since the roof, fainter and sharper at once, as if the tunnel itself edits him. We pass under 2-pack corridors, he says without looking back. If you hear boots, you hear them late. Don't stand where echoes like to live. I'll be sure to consult the echo map, I mutter. Please do, he says. The lazy derision is gentle tonight, as if wrapped in cloth. It would be embarrassing to lose you to architecture. We turn left at a grate whistling with sewer breath, right at a ladder annotated with old blood. The tunnel narrows, then opens into a chamber where turbines used to spin air into purpose. Ryan lifts a panel with the heel of his hand. Behind it, a lock that thinks it's clever, and 4 wires that prove it isn't. He glances at me. Knife. I pass mine handle first. He uses it not as a weapon but as a conductor, bridging contacts with the same precision he used on my temper. The lock clicks the sound of a small surrender. He tucks the blade back into my palm, cool against my skin, his fingers gone before I can read them. You going to tell them? I ask, before I can decide not to. He knows which them. That matters, tonight. Not all at once, he says, voice low enough to belong to the concrete. Some people think better when the world changes slowly. And me? You'll do what you always do. Survive it. A beat. Or choose it. The panel groans open. We slip through and the city wakes above us. A different animal up here. All lights and teeth. The tunnel exhales us into a service sublevel that smells newer and more expensive. Lacquered concrete, fresh paint, conditioning units that purr instead of cough. We're under the civic center turned palace, once a municipal pride, now a monument to pack vanity. Marble above, flood-proof steel below. Spotlights rake the courtyard like interrogations. The main doors are 2 stories of armored glass and arrogance. Alphas like their metaphors thick. Nix crouches by a maintenance hatch and pries with a smile. Cam checks her pistol, grim as ritual. The runners flex and whisper call signs like charms. Remind me why we're here, I say, even though I know. Even though the ledger in Ryan's jacket, the discs in my pack, and the words on a dozen stolen memos have already told me what's at stake. Because this is where they keep the reminder, he says, that nothing changes without their consent. He nods toward the floor above. And because I'm tired of asking, he doesn't say what the reminder is. He doesn't have to. Packs display power the way some men display trophies. They frame it, backlight it, force you to pass by it to reach anything you love. The clinic suppressants we stole were a symptom. The disease lives up there, quotas carved into law, punishments carved into skin, names carved off records. Tonight is not about stealing bolts or rerouting trucks. It's about walking into the mouth and pulling a tooth. We climb a maintenance ladder and emerge behind a decorative screen that thinks it's art. The palace's main hall stretches away in hungry lines. Columns like vertical rivers, floor polished to a lie. Portraits of pack leaders smirk from their gilded cages. Two staircases curl up to a mezzanine where negotiations end with a toast and a threat. Guards stand in pairs and smell like bored violence. A camera blinks polite. Ryan gestures and the runners scatter, invisible in plain sight the way only children and ghosts can be. Cam edges along the shadow of a column, counting wires with her eyes. Nyx fishes a coil from her harness and makes a camera decide it's sleepy. I stand at Ryan's shoulder and pretend I'm not watching him instead of the room. He touches his comm. Positions? North wing, one runner whispers. Glass case has a temper. East hall. The other reports. Statue of founder looks like it wants to confess. Circuit killed, Cam murmurs. Lights will blink, not die. You'll have 12 seconds of superstition. 12 is generous, Nyx says. Make it 8, Ryan exhales, and the room shifts around the sound, as if the architecture believes in it. On my mark. He waits. The guards exchange the kind of meaningless conversation men invent to prove they can talk. A functionary scurries across the hall with a stack of paper, because the most dangerous orders are always printed. A clock I can't see ticks towards something. Mark. The lights blink. 8. Slow heartbeats of twilight. In that pocket, everything that hides moves. Nyx in a straight line and a bent one, Cam. Shadow to shadow. The runners sliding up a service stair like water learning to climb. I follow Ryan, because he's already cut the path between what we need and who will have to bleed for it. We don't get all the way to the mezzanine. 2 guards round the corner early, noses in the air, sense sharpening into attention. They see us and remember their training because men like them are paid to pretend that makes them brave. Hands, one barks, and raises a rifle that doesn't match his shoulders. Ryan stops 3 paces away, hands open, palms bare. His smile is soft and cruel. Boys, he says, and the lazy derision is back in full and it is a blade. Do you know what you're guarding? The people's will, the other says, automatic and wrong. Ryan tilts his head. Then tell the people to hire better, Will. The first one bristles, steps forward, mouth shaping the start of a threat. He doesn't get to the verb. Ryan moves. No, that's wrong. He doesn't move so much as he arrives at a different choice. A pivot, a grab, and the rifle is a conversation piece on the floor. I take the second before he remembers step 2. Quiet, Ryan breathes. And we are. We reach the mezzanine. The reminder sits under a ring of lights that make dust look holy. A glass enclosure on a plinth of stone stolen from the old courthouse. Inside, behind glare and arrogance, is a book bound in pale leather. A ledger. The ledger. The original rolls of exile. Names struck through. Marks of banishment. The authorizing signatures of men who believed ink could make a thing clean. It's both history and weapon. It says, you were nothing and remain so. It says, we own the words for what happened to you. Cam, Ryan says. Case. On it, she answers. Already crouched. Already coaxing. The glass hums under her touch. She smiles without humor. Vain thing. Incoming, Nyx hisses. East Hall blooming with idiots. 1, 2, 8. Bias 30, Ryan says. 20, Nyx replies. And a souvenir. Cam's coil sighs. The case clicks. The glass rises a 1/4 inch in the universal language of invitation. Ryan slides the book free as if it were hot. Sirens, not friendly ones. The hall below fills with boots and breath, and the special sound of men who think they outnumber fate. A spotlight rakes the mezzanine and paints us in their favorite colors, target and targeter. Down. Cam barks and we scatter as the light erupts into glare, as a shot cracks and chews the stone where Ryan stood. The runners appear like miracles at the top of the service steps, eyes wide, hands competent. Plan? I ask. Leave, Ryan says. Acceptable, I answer. And then the room decides to have an opinion. They come hard. Alphas with medals and muscles. Omegas who look hungry in the way of people. Fed doctrine. Betas who picked a side because dying for neutral is a bad story. Commands overlap. The radio chatter sounds like someone strangling a hive. We fall back into motion I didn't know we had as a group. Cam firing clean. Nyx breaking sightlines. Like it's art. the runners slipping behind counters and popping up where they least belong. I cover the left and try not to want more blood than necessary. We're here to take a word away from them, not to paint the floor with proof. A pack officer with a voice like sandpaper yells, "Hold!" And the room falters. A path opens without opening. Alphas do that. Their bodies know how to make space where they demand it. He steps into the light. His mark shines like a coin. His scent is old power and new fear. "Who do you think you are?" he asks, which is always the wrong question. Ryan steps forward and the whole hall becomes a held breath. He has the book in one hand. His other hand is empty. His face is not. "The last person you want to test," he says, and it isn't derision now. It's something older. The officer sneers. An Omega with a prop? Pathetic. Cam's eyes flick to me. Nix's mouth tightens. They know. They've always known something. Ryan closes his eyes for a heartbeat. When he opens them, the room tilts. Not because the floor moves. Because something that has been pressed down for a very long time stops pretending. I smell it first. How could I not? The air sharpens. Bittersweet turned iron sweet, heavy and clean, and above all, undeniable. Not the coaxing scent of an Omega taught to soothe and surrender. The command weight of an Alpha. It rolls out of him in a measured wave, not a flood, but the room drowns anyway. Every Alpha present goes still on instinct older than law. Some drop their chins. Some bare their teeth and choke on the impulse to kneel. The officer's face empties. His body remembers rules he didn't write. Omegas sway, pupils blown, as if someone adjusted the gravity. Betas swallow and forget which way they were pointing their guns. My beast slams into my ribs so hard it hurts. It wants up. It wants out. It wants... what? To answer. To challenge. To mark. The old answers chant, but the voice that sings them isn't mine. I lock my jaw until it aches and breathe through a throat that would rather howl. Ryan stands very still, scent unfurling like a banner he never wanted to fly. The lazy derision is gone. What lives on his face now is the opposite of performance. He looks like a man taking off a weight and finding out it was also a shield. He speaks, and every ear strains to make room. "Your book," he says to the officer, "has my name in it twice. Once for the family that sold me, once for the pack that feared me. I let you keep it because I had work to do, and you love your trophies. But I'm done letting my past decorate your lobby." The officer's throat works. "This is a crime. This is a correction," Ryan says. "And a confession." He lifts the ledger and tears a page. The sound is obscene in the expensive air. Someone gasps, like the paper is their skin. "Procedure," he says, "for us now, not for them. I suppressed. I hid. I did it so I could sit in your rooms and move your pieces without anyone smelling the truth. I did it so the people who needed me wouldn't have to explain me." He looks at me then, and the room falls away. I did it because choice matters more than rank. The scent surges, a notch higher, answering something I didn't know I asked. My knees threaten to forget their job. I plant my feet and put my shoulder against the urge to go to him the old way. The officer finds his voice and wastes it. Seize him. No one moves quickly. That's the thing about instinct. You can override it, but not fast. Cam shoots a spotlight to shrapnel and buys us dark. Nix hurls a flash and buys us confusion. The runners dart, small and fierce, snatching the tiers of paper like they're diamonds falling. I step into the first man who remembers his training and steal it from him with my elbow. Ryan tosses the ledger to me without looking. It hits my chest and my hands. Lift on reflex, and now I'm the man carrying a history I didn't ask for. "Exit," he says. We break, down the service stair, across the balcony that has seen too many lies printed on it. Bullets complain against marble. The scent still rides us, weapon and wound. Men behind us shout orders with voices that keep slipping. In the sublevel, the tunnel opens her mouth again, hungry for us. We pour in. The runners disappear into side holes known only to people small enough to fit. Cam peels left to lay a false trail. Nix waits just long enough to slam a grate shut with a grin directed at a guard who will dream of her for months. Ryan and I run alone the last 100 meters. The scent thins behind us as if he's reeling it in inch by inch. A man winding a rope cut into his palms. When we finally slow, when the tunnel gives us back the sound of our own breath, he braces one hand against the wall and bows his head. Sweat slicks his hair to his temple. His jacket sits wrong on shoulders that look too broad for it now that he isn't pretending to be smaller. "Don't," he says, voice raw. "Don't come closer yet." I stop. Every muscle in me hums with both obedience and defiance. I force my hands open and find paper there, the ledger I didn't drop. The torn edges flutter like frightened mouths. He breathes until the air remembers how to be air. When he looks up, what's left in his eyes is not apology. It's the kind of tired reserved for men who did the thing they promised themselves they'd never do again. "I could have kept lying," he says. "I did it well. Too well." "Why stop?" I ask. "Because my voice needs something to do besides betray me. Because there are nights when hiding is strategy," he says. "And nights when it's surrender." A tired smile. "I like strategies." He doesn't ask if I understand. He isn't asking for permission. He is telling me who he is, and seeing who I'll be in response. The beast in me is still a storm, but it has an eye. In it, something clear. Respect that tastes like steel warmed by sun. Fear that tastes like wind about to turn. Want that doesn't taste like hunger. I step closer, slow, the ledger cradled in my palms like a live thing. He watches me like a man watching tide. When I'm within reach, every old rule leans in and whispers, "Now." Mark, own, make safe. I don't move. The choice stands between us like a door I can open or leave intact. I reach up, not to his throat, not to his wrist, not to anywhere the old story would. Claim, and touch the wall beside his head, a knuckle's length from his hair. Close enough to feel the heat rolling off him, far enough to mean it. My voice is not a growl when it comes. It's a vow scraped clean. I lean in, close enough that my breath could be a touch if it wanted, and put the words where only he can hear them. "I won't be your chains." A beat, softer. "I won't be anyone's." His eyes close, just for a second. Relief breaks across his face, not like a smile, but like a weight finding the floor. When he opens them, what looks back at me is not a challenge or a command. It's acceptance, edged with something I don't yet have the courage to name. We stand there, two alphas in a tunnel that has seen more fear than we could carry, and the city above us keeps rehearsing its end. My beast rolls, then settles, not because it lost, but because it was finally asked to choose. Outside, a siren scrapes the night. Inside, the generator coughs and keeps the light steady. Ryan straightens, squares his shoulders, and nods toward the darkness ahead. "Come on," he says. "We have work to finish." We go, and for the first time since exile taught me how to walk alone, I move beside someone without reaching for a leash, mine or his. The power center dies badly. Smoke threads the morning like uncombed hair. Windows exhale glass in slow sighs, and the plaza, where alphas once practiced their speeches, is a field of toppled flags and broken spotlights. The sun is pale, as if it doesn't trust us yet. People move like survivors do, purposeful, careful, laughing too loudly in bursts that sound like disbelief. Nyx limps past with her arm in a sling, and a grin that promises new trouble. Calm argues with a generator until it purrs. The runners count torn ledger pages on the steps, laying them out to dry like relics. Somewhere, a drone lies on its side, red-eye dim, a beetle that forgot how to be fear. The city smells like wet ash and hot copper, and beneath that, a shy new thing. Air. Choice. We won. Not the whole war. Cities don't surrender. But this piece. This morning. The ledger is gone from the glass case. The proclamation that made exile a hobby is ash. The people who built a palace out of obedience woke up to find it drafty. Ryan stands at the edge of the ruined dais with the posture of a man who forgot how to sit. His jacket is torn. His knuckles are raw. The scent he kept wound tight for years keeps trying to unfurl, the way a coiled wire remembers spring. He's holding himself together with jaw and will, and both are fraying. I approach slow because slow is a language his bones might still understand. The plaza under my boots feels different, lighter, like the ground got a vote. I stop at his shoulder. The smoke paints his profile in bruised colors. You're bleeding, I say. He flexes his hand as if the ache could be argued away. Only where I used it. You used all of it, I say, and let the respect in my voice stand without armor. He doesn't deny it. His gaze tracks the runners, the sling, the generator, the drone. He catalogs. He cares. The scent kicks again, heavier this time, a pulse that ripples across the square. Heads turn. A few alphas go still, the old reflex snagging on a new morning. Easy, I murmur. A hand hovering near his forearm without landing. Close enough to count as intention, far enough to count as restraint. You don't owe the air your throat. His laugh is thin. I forgot how loud breathing can be. We'll relearn it, I say. Quiet. A muscle climbs his cheekbone, stubborn as habit. They'll come, he says, meaning the packs, the councils, the men who rename theft as policy. They'll call this a riot instead of a revision. They'll do what they always do, I finish, but they'll have to do it to a city that knows a different word now. I tilt my head toward the shattered doors, the drying paper, the broken lights. You gave them a new grammar. His hands shake once, small and mean. The scent swells, command and warning braided tight. The nearest alpha flinches and pretends he tripped. My beast surges to answer. Old code flashing, new code louder. I step in, not to dominate, not to bow, to anchor. I set 2 fingers against the inside of his wrist, where the pulse tells the truth before the mouth does. Here, I say, low, this is yours. Not theirs, not mine. Yours. He stiffens, because every old story says touch means claim. I hold steady, a weight of seconds, not pressure. The fragrance of him steadies, still a tide, less a flood. His breathing finds countable numbers. You're doing it, he says, somewhere between awe and accusation. Doing what? Being near without. He cuts off, the word chaining dying before it can stand. I told you, I say, and the smoke makes a witness of the morning. No chains. Something loosens behind his eyes, a knot he's been using as a spine. He turns his wrist, slow, until my fingers fall into his palm. He doesn't close his hand. He lets me be where I am. It feels like a treaty signed in breath. Nyx whistles from the steps. Hey, lovebirds, she calls, too bright on purpose, a shield thrown in the form of a joke. Please pretend to be professionals until we leave the blast radius. Professionalism is a spectrum, Cam adds, then shoulders past with a box of salvaged processors and a smirk that says she saw and will not say more. Ryan's mouth tilts, small and real. He looks at me like the ledger looked at fire. Walk? We leave the plaza by a broken side gate, down a street that lost its map and might be better for it. The city at the boundary has a different voice. Lower buildings, fewer lies. Stalls already waking. Children playing war with tree branches. Someone frying dough as if victory needs sugar to stick. The sun tests our faces and finds them survivable. We stop where the ruins taper to dirt, a seam between what used to be decided for us and what might be decided by us. Grass has the audacity to exist here. Green where no one told it to be. My shoulders go down in increments I didn't authorize. Say it again, he asks, quiet, like a man asking for the last line of a prayer. I don't pretend I don't know what. I step in the way I've learned to, each inch a choice. I set my palm over his sternum, feeling the thud that means alive, not alpha. My voice finds the shape it made in the tunnel and remakes it here, with sky listening. I won't be your chains, I say. A beat, and honesty pushes the rest out of me. I want to be your choice. The wind lifts the smell of smoke off us like a blanket folded away. His eyes close, a blink that stays too long, as if the word choice needs time to make a nest. When he opens them, they are storm, and after. He leans forward, slow enough that a man could refuse and be believed. I don't. Our mouths meet, like they were introduced by common sense, and finally decided to be polite. Not a raid, a promise, the kind that tastes like metal and mint and possibility. His hand skims my jaw, and pauses at the edge of the scar he didn't give me and refuses to own. Mine finds his shoulder and doesn't pull. We breathe each other in the way you do when you've been breathing cities for too long and need something human to prove you can. When we part, the world is still on fire somewhere. But here, the heat has a better story. No marks, he says, and it isn't a demand. It's a relief. No marks, I agree. Not because I can't. Because I won't. He laughs, wrecked and grateful. We're going to have to disappoint a lot of traditions. Add it to the list, I say. We're already good at it. We start walking, not toward a pack house or a palace or a plan printed on expensive paper. Just forward, down a road that remembers wheels and might remember feet if we teach it. The city behind us mutters and rethinks. Ahead, the sky tries on blue like it's not sure it fits. 2 alphas, no crest on our collars, no brand on our tongues, no pack trailing us with rules, no Omega waiting to be defined by a myth. Just a man who hid to build something, and a man who refused to bow until he learned how to bend without breaking. Side by side, not in step, because step is a kind of chain and we promised. The wind pushes ash off the road, small weather clearing a path. Our shoulders brush once, twice. The contact light as a habit we choose to keep. We don't look back, not because we're fearless, because we finally know which way is ours.